have my usual multiple outfits, so I thought I'd try, glasses, maybe, or lipstick.
Wigs?
No, I didn't bring wigs this time. Crazy me. But I feel really comforted because I think I freaked people out the last time I came around because the book Testament, the first half, is all post-Roe v. Wade poetry because I'm in a southern state and I'm seeing all of this repression going on really up close. And I don't think that people had the same appreciation for what this overturning and what these conservative judges has done. And then I go into the bathroom and I see a page that says, if you are looking for help and advice on abortion stuff, and I'm like, okay, maybe people are understanding here that this is an issue as well. So I feel a little bit better at least seeing a poster of people showing concern for people that are going through this stuff. I say this all because I'm going to read to you two poems. First one is long and it is for Texas. And I haven't read it in Texas, but I thought it would be appropriate, and I hope you like it, and it's called 50 Years of Freedom and Independence. On the 22nd of January in 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 7-2 that unduly restrictive state legislation on abortion is unconstitutional. Texas statutes criminalizing abortion violated a constitutional right to privacy, implicit in the liberty guarantee of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. What I wanted to point out to you is that a Texas woman was forced into these restrictions, and the Supreme Court agreed that the state could not intervene with the first, and in many cases, second trimester abortions, or abortions when a woman's life was in danger. 50 plus years ago, a woman protested Texas's repressive laws against women, and won. So, in Texas, they tried to repress women's rights. On 1/22/73, a trial started by a woman in Texas gave women some of their rights back. In 1992, the Supreme Court made it clear that restrictions on abortion are unconstitutional when placing an undue burden on the person seeking the abortion before the fetus is viable. The court even said in 2020 that a Louisiana statute, which was almost identical to Texas's 1970s attempts, was also unconstitutional. But in 2018, Mississippi state law banning most abortions was passed in the hope that the Supreme Court, approaching 50 years later with conservative justices, would overturn Roe v. Wade with Dobbs v. Jackson, which was only about whether bans on all pre-viability abortions are unconstitutional. In February 2022, a leak from the majority opinion from Justice Samuel Alito wrote that the court had voted to uphold this Mississippi law and overturn Roe v. Wade by June of 2022. It's now over 50 years, and women thought they gained their rights, but how far have we really come, baby? When now a clump of cells, of non-viable cells, is a baby, and women are now slaves to the state again. After the passing of Roe v. Wade in 1/22/73, it wasn't destroyed on my birthday, 6/22/22, but on 6/24/22, when Dobbs v. Jackson was passed, overturning Roe v. Wade. As soon as it was passed, 11 states' trigger laws restricted or banned abortions immediately after the elimination of Roe v. Wade and the subsequent banning of women's rights. Wade recognized that the decision whether to continue or end a pregnancy belongs to the individual, not the government. But it's the government's choice now, not yours. Thank you to the states that want to take away the rights of the individual, the living, breathing individual, to give to a clump of cells no larger than a paper clip. In these states, so much for the raped 10-year-old girl who, after this trauma, can't have an abortion in her state. Or, oh well, for the woman, even when doctors declare the fetus inside her is non-viable, doctors still can't remove it. And when the woman has a miscarriage later at home on 9/22/23, she is actually charged with a felony. Here in Texas, and in all southern-leaning and once slave-supporting states, their loathing of all womankind has never changed. Over 50 years ago, women fought to get some of their rights back in Texas, and they won. But conservative hatred fermented so long, it took them half a century to find a justice who would so ignore the law. The Constitution's Ninth Amendment spells out our rights. Quote, "The enumeration of the Constitution or certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people." They spell it out in the 14th Amendment Due Process Clause that your fundamental rights are not specifically enumerated elsewhere in the Constitution, including the right to marry, the right to use contraception, or the right to an abortion. But why worry about the law in multiple places in the U.S. Constitution when your desire to thwart women's rights has been so denied to you for so long that your percolating hatred finally explodes? I have worked to help protect women for over half my life. I've helped people after rape, violence, and abuse. But for even longer, we've had that gushy, deep in our hearts feeling that women have had all my sentient life, or that at least when it came to our government not interfering with our basic bodily rights. And then they wait for their chance to pounce, thanks to those conservatives who prefer to keep us under their thumbs so personally that we now feel less safe even with our own doctors than we did before. Now there's just another place where we should feel safe that we've lost. Another nail in our coffin, more dirt over our grave. You bury us before we live. After this overturning, after these trigger laws, after more and more cases where women are so subjugated, I wrote my testament outlining these injustices. I went to bookstores, bars, FM radio interviews, even cafes in some of the most repressive states in these United States, told my story, and thought I was making a difference. I thought I could write it all down, put it all in a book, put it on a shelf, and feel like I've accomplished something. But have I? I can share the news of what these laws have done to people of all genders, races, and classes. Then what? Just sharing the news of the offenses when they cannot reach the ears of those who choose to not listen? This makes me ask, what progress have I made? If we protest and no one is there to hear it, then what are we accomplishing? Writing until our fountain pens run dry, scratching until we lose our fingernails, until our fingertips are sore and bloody to uncover these truths and scratch out the error of their ways? Or screaming our protests out into the wind until we feel our voices are all but lost? How are we making a difference? I know I keep asking questions, but my futility in getting answers forces me to end all of my questions with periods, and these questions become statements of fact. So, after all I've seen, and after all the changes that have happened, with more pronounced and more violent laws, and seeing the real effect of the execution of these pro-life laws, when pro-life is the most ironic term I've ever heard. Their name doesn't support life and only represses half the population instead. But after seeing these changes, I am loath to say that even though they took our rights away, our only choice is to fight to take it back any way we know how. I've seen the people rioting. I've seen the protests. I've seen the marches with people holding posters high in the air. I've seen the articles. I've seen the books. And still, it seems, after all this time, that our resistance is futile. But what choice do we have? Who knows? We just can't give up, because someone, maybe, someday, will eventually listen. Thank you. That was a long one, and I was going to do one more that was shorter that so relates, and it's a different state. What? This one's for Alabama. And I was hearing my sister talking about this a lot while I just came to visit since I'm staying with her. And it is titled, it's for Arizona, titled 1864 Mentality in 2024. Somebody already knows what this is. Here we go. After I fought sexism and objectification as an acquaintance rape workshop facilitator, I'm then carted off to these southern states to witness a healthcare right that all women had all my sentient life taken away by the courts. Oh, wait, it wasn't taken away, but an entertainer-in-chief who once supported abortion rights, said he changed his mind, and then stacked the U.S. Supreme Court with conservatives who used a southern state's law to overturn Roe v. Wade. So now states can choose to take away women's rights. What I didn't know was what would befall us with this assault on women's rights by southern and once slave-supporting states. So after a year of seeing this cruelty firsthand in Texas, writing a testament and sharing these stories in Arkansas and Illinois bookstores, cafes, and bars, a part of me thought my work was done. But what did I accomplish when shouting from rooftops and publishing a book you hope someone will read won't change the mind of any Christian zealots who believe in life at conception, though neither their government nor their church agrees? So yeah, I probably didn't imagine I was alone, but when I recently saw a t-shirt that said, "There goes Arizona, trying to out-Florida Texas," that's when I realized that we all know that this has gone too far. Because I could rattle on about religious people being the cause of this catastrophe for women, but remember when I dropped that hint earlier about slavery? Well, even though Arizona wasn't a state until 1912, back then they were Confederate Arizona. For in 1864, as in the drafting age of 18 and the Beatles crooning that song, "When I'm 64." Now I just want to sing 1864. I'm sorry. Anyway. But right smack dab in the middle of that their Civil War, that is when they passed a law that all abortions were illegal, except if the woman's life was in danger. Now, this antiquated law was blocked since Roe v. Wade, though some Republicans in political office in Arizona, on record, said they're pleased to be in a state where this law exists. But now, thanks to that splendid, devious Roe v. Wade overturning, one Republican pushed to reenact it. Now, remember, this law was made during the Civil War, before women gained the right to vote. That was 1919, long before women could have had a say in this, though what difference would that make since even women in religion and politics now support this law? But fine, talk about health instead, and support a law that was enacted before penicillin was even discovered in 1928. Why not use laws so old without health knowledge? But wait a minute, I'm not here to tell you to be a slave supporter or to be religious or conservative, as this has just rattled my brain too much. Good, I praise science that I can't have shaken baby syndrome. But what should catch your eye is that far-right types have supported this repression until everyone votes against it. And then they realize it's approaching election time. That's when the headline news stories come out. Arizona Republicans denounce revival of 1864 Arizona ban, from The Guardian. Republicans splinter over repeal of 1864 abortion ban, from the New York Times. Or ABC News is ignoring Trump. I'm not even going to continue that one, because even Trump wants to seem more moderate to help increase his base in an election year. So remember, people's ethics will change at the drop of a hat if it has anything to do with politics and their selfish effort of trying to win the masses over so that they can be the ones with the real power. Thank you. Yeah, power. This is why I appreciate it.